Plastic waste pyrolysis first started to become noticeable at around 2018. This was a time when a few companies, primarily from Europe, started to pick up some wind in their product and project development and started to attract media attention. There was a few companies originating from Norway, a few companies from the Netherlands and other parts of Europe. Keeping in mind that we at Corsair launched our operations in the year 2020, so there were already companies that had been working on the same topic for a number of years. When we look at the differences between Corsair and these other companies, one of the main differences that we can often see is that most of these companies chose to build very, very large machines. Basically, they would build their projects around having one or two very big machines. Now, these companies were in a very fortunate situation because the regulations that were being discussed and eventually introduced by European Union in 2021 now made the plastic manufacturing companies and the petrochemical companies interested to urgently find suppliers of pyrolysis oil for them. So there was a lot of interest, a lot of money available for a company, especially in Europe, that was now in this field of developing a plastic waste recycling facility. Therefore, a lot of these companies that were building these big machines were able to also attract a great deal of funding, in many cases tens and tens of millions of euros from these big oil and petrochemical companies. Unfortunately, still today, in 2025, a lot of those companies are still struggling to become operational. Many companies have actually failed on this. They were not able to get their production up and running, and they basically burned and ran through all of their budgets and just burned out all the money before they were able to begin producing and selling oil. Very unfortunate situation. Now, when we in 2020 launched Corsair in Thailand, because of our very limited resources, and I'm talking about limited financing in this case, we actually didn't have an option of going after these large machines costing millions and tens of millions of euros. We at Corsair were extremely fortunate to find a manufacturer of plastic waste recycling pyrolysis reactors from China, which after an intensive research was proven to be able to do what they were claiming as possible. After analyzing and researching this technology, we then decided to begin acquiring these reactors. Many people in the industry told us that we were crazy and that our approach was very unorthodox, very different, and would never work, when we told them that our plan with every factory is to include as many as 10 of these modular reactors. I have had countless conversations with so-called experts who told us that the modular direction was completely crazy. But let's think about it from the common sense point of view. If your factory has only one machine, and now that machine has any type of problem, that means that the entire production of the facility is now down until that problem gets resolved. Instead, as in our model, we are looking to have as many as 10 reactors in each one of our standalone Corsair facilities, which means that if one factory has 10 machines and one machine has a problem, 9 of those machines are still operational. Thinking about this not from the scientific or maybe from the engineering point of view, but from a common sense point of view, in my opinion, makes total sense. But this wasn't the norm in the industry at that time, and we were considered very different and even crazy of thinking about going this way. Another common sense element which I wanted to bring in was the organic expansion potential. Because when you have smaller modular reactors, when we want to grow the production output of a single factory, we don't have to invest tens of millions of euros for a new large machine, but instead we could just keep on adding additional modular units as we need them for grow the operation. So the modular way, as we saw it already in the year 2020, had a lot of great aspects to it. Now today, fast forward since 2020, the results and the reality has proven that modular truly is the right way to go. As I mentioned earlier, most of these companies that set out to build these individual large machines are still not operational after years and years in development. Many of them have now gone bankrupt because they've run out of money before they were able to actually become operational. And many of them are struggling with a number of technical issues and not therefore able to start daily production. So Corsair's approach in this sense was very different. You could say that we were fortunate, we were lucky, because we didn't have tens of millions of euros as an initial funding to go out and do what everybody else was doing. Instead, we had to go with the technology that was accessible to us with limited funding, but was proven to do what it was supposed to do. Now, additional element that greatly contributed into our success in the early years was that we started our operations in Thailand. Thailand, as you can imagine, has a significantly lower cost of labor and operations than, for example, Europe or North America. Therefore, the limited resources of funding that we had and that we were able to acquire from our first group of private equity investors that we hugely appreciate was able to take us much longer here in Thailand than what we would have been able to achieve, for example, in Europe, where the development cost and the labor cost would have been several times higher than what it was here. These are some of the very important contributing factors that eventually led to a point where Corsair became one of the first companies in the world to truly reach a level of industrial operation of plastic waste pyrolysis, was also able to reach the quality requirements of the petrochemical industry with the quality of our pyrolysis oil, and is now today, without a single shadow of a doubt, the fastest growing company in the field of advanced plastic recycling.